Hi, everyone. Lovely audience. Thank you so much for being a part of all the YouTube videos that we've done before this. We're back with yet another amazing author with us today. Samridhi Prakash is the author of the latest released book, Unbosoming. It's a poetry collection and it's by far one of my favorite reads. And today we're going to take you on a little sneak peek from behind the scenes about how the book came into being, what inspired the book, who is the illustrator, who was the editor, what did they do, how did their journey seem like in from the writing to the publishing of this beautiful book called Unbosoming. It's available on Amazon and the Inkfeathers bookstore. You can check it out right after we finish the author interview today. So today we have with us, you can see 3 people on the call, and Samridhi here is the author. Hi, Samridhi.
Hello, Kashish. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? All right. So Samridhi is the author of the book, and you can see Lavanya with us here. Lavanya is the editor. Hi, Lavanya.
How are you? Hi, Kashish. How are you doing?
I'm definitely doing great. I'm really excited about this interview and excited to know.
Me too. I just can't stop smiling.
I'm glad to have you. So Shivani, hi Shivani. Let's say hi to the audience. Hi. This is the illustrator we have. I am so excited to talk to you as well and have you as a part of the interview. I cannot wait to ask you all sorts of questions because this is definitely one of the best additions to my bookshelf. And I can see the amount of work that you all have put in to get out this beautiful book. And first off, let's talk about the entire concept of the book. So my first question would be to Samridhi herself. Samridhi, what made you write this book in the first place and think about the whole concept of unbosoming?
Unbosoming was actually never thought of. And I don't even mean the name, I mean the whole concept of the book, the concept of writing the poetry book, of publishing it, of getting to the point of having a collection of poetry that would get published. It was never thought of. All I thought of was just trying to get out of my own head and trying to make sense of my thoughts during COVID. So Unbosoming started off as an escape from my own mind, and I just wanted to write the stuff down, whatever the mess and chaos that was inside the head. Because to be very honest, COVID was unexpected, it was hard, and it was long. So we all find different sorts of ways to deal with the whole situation, the deaths, with the diseases, and with the reality of what life actually is. And I found this. I used to write since I was a kid, since I was in 6th or maybe 5th class. But so I kind of naturally inclined towards writing. But this was the first time I started to explore different forms of writing and trying to write in a way that would make other people relate to it, not trying to write very personalized notes, so that if you read it or anybody, any X or Z person reads it, they're able to understand not actually the whole story, but the emotion which led me to writing the story. So that was how Unbosoming was born. And then it just happened. The way I was writing, the way it was flowing from my brain to the page, Unbosoming also flowed from the first day I started writing, the day it got published. And somewhere along the way, Lavanya came in, and then in the end, Shivani came in, and everything just came out to be perfect. Everything happened at the right time, the right place, and it's perfect.
A lot of us, I guess we found different outlets for, just sharing our emotions, expressing ourselves. And I would like to take a moment to appreciate that you found this particular outlet, because this outlet is the reason why I'm a little more extra in love with poetry today. So now that I know about, what really exactly inspired the whole idea about it, and, you were just trying to put your thoughts down, how did you come up with the title? Was it just something that happened out of the blue?
Basically, I knew I had to give it a title, but as you can see, the whole poem, all the poems inside the book, none of them have titles, because I have trouble choosing titles. It's very tiresome, because a poem it involves a lot of emotions. How can I choose one title? Because if I give it a title, it conveys, it already brings a kind of a perspective into the mind of the reader. Okay, this is about this. I don't want that. I want the reader to be very open with whatever they are reading and to interpret it in whatever manner they want to interpret, so that it is personal to them as well. So none of them have titles, because, and that is why it's so difficult to name the book, because there's no one emotion that flows through the book. There are multiple emotions, and as I have written in the forward of the book as well, that there's just way too much going in the book. It's just very human. Sometimes it's happy, sometimes very rarely though, but mostly it's sad, and different degrees, and not just degrees, different forms of sad, different forms of sadness, anxiety, depression. So it was very difficult to name the book. I knew I had to name it, and I was just stalling it for the whole time, because I was just telling myself it might never be a book. So why to think about it? Why to get there? So, but when it came to it, I just wanted it to be a kind of, because there are a lot of stuff that nobody knew about me that I have written about in this book, because I was revisiting a lot of stuff that had happened past, and even a lot of things that happen with you daily, but you don't address it because you don't want to disturb the equilibrium you are living in the society, in the home, and with the people you are living with. And so I had written about it, not naming the people, so that the equilibrium remains, but I'm also able to express myself. So now that that was out, the confessions, the revelations were out. So that is why I named her Unbosoming. So it is something like I am coming out of my shell. I'm trying to come out of my shell and express myself. I'm trying to reveal myself to you, so that even you are kind and you accept me. You try to accept me as I am. That maybe I am different than how I portray myself to be in everyday life.
That is such a beautiful thought, and I must say that that is such a beautiful concept as well. That must have led you to naming the book. And one of the most beautiful parts about the book is the title and the illustrations, right? I feel like every little thing that you had to disclose out there, that you had to unbosom out there, and that the book had to talk to the readers about, I felt like the illustrations in the book definitely did justice to what you wanted to convey. So, Shivani, kudos to you for amazingly designing this book and putting together these beautiful, beautiful illustrations for us to look at. The illustrations fall so perfectly in line with the poetry. It just makes you want to stare at those illustrations. So, tell me a little bit about how you got involved. How did you meet Samridhi? Were you friends? How did you begin to get involved in the book?
Yeah, it's a weird story. Actually, we hadn't talked before, but we were cousins. Actually, one day I found her on Facebook, and my mother wanted me to contact her because I'm a poetry freak and I like reading poetry books. So I contacted her on Instagram and I asked her for the book, the link for the book. And that time she wasn't ready with the cover and some of the illustrations. So she wanted me to do it. She checked out my account and she wanted me to work on the book cover. And then we started talking, we had meetings, and after many trials and errors, we came to the final layout.
That is amazing. So you'd already finished writing the entire book before you met Shivani?
Yes. It was by chance that we met, and I cannot even imagine what would have happened if we hadn't met, because she texted me out of the blue, and we were cousins. We knew about each other's existence, but we had never actually interacted. So it happened, and then I saw her account and I thought it could be something. So we started off, we left the cover for later. First I gave her the whole draft and I said, go through it, take couple of days, go through it, so you understand what the book is about, the theme of the book, so that when you are making the illustrations, even you know what you want to express. And then she just developed on from there.
Shivani, it's absolutely incredible how you were able to come up with exactly apt illustrations for those poetries, especially after the entire book is complete. That's a little more difficult. And I can understand how hard that process must have been, and you've pulled it off amazingly, I must say. Big round of applause to the work that you've put in, Shivani.
We used to call each other at odd hours and with our queries and validations, and I guess it was worth it at the end.
That's nice. That's nice. All that efforts did definitely show really, really beautifully in the book. So, moving to Lavanya, I also want to know, how did you find the third piece to your book, the editor of the book, which is again of the most crucial part of the book to make it flawless. How did you, Lavanya, come across Samridhi, or was it the other way around? How did you guys end up together working on this book?
Um, Sam and I go way back. We go from like 11th, I think. So we used to go to the same coaching for, it's funny enough, for PCM, for like engineering and everything. So that's where we met for the first time. And I knew her as the kid who had really intelligent brothers. So because everybody in our coaching, knew her through her brother. So that's how we came across each other. And then one day we sat together on the first bench. I clearly remember. Our friendship grew over, going from the first bench to the last bench. And I think over that period of 2 years, the way I got to know her is probably better than any of the friends that I've ever gotten to know of. And like, I know Samridhi, I've seen Samridhi in so many phases and so many shades, that unbosoming is actually what Samridhi is all about. So one day I just got a call from her and she's like, listen, I have a surprise for you. Because in coaching, we always used to, because both of us have a knack for writing. So we used to bond over that. And like, I used to read her pieces, I used to show her mine. And like, we used to talk about it for hours, more than the engineering stuff and the homework that we used to get. We used to talk about literature. So one day she just comes up to me and she just gives me a call and she's like, listen, I have a surprise for you. And she tells me, I've written something and I want to turn it into a book. And I was just so ecstatic because I always knew she could do it, but there was never an opportunity. So that's when like Unbosoming came along and we started editing the book. She had raw fragments of her imagination of whatever fragments that she had. Then we pieced them together and that's how everything came along. And it's, as you can see, it's beautiful as hell.
I would just like to read out a couple of pieces of my favorites. Maybe Samriddhi, you could go ahead and read, something that you'd like to share. But if you don't mind, could I just have the honor of reading one of your works here?
I would love it.
Great. So I'll read a couple of favorites. I did read a couple of favorites in the previous live session. Audience, if you haven't checked that out, you can go check it out on Instagram. Inkfeathers Publishing, you'll see the last live that we did was a small, short, brief session that we did with Samriddhi, and I did read out a couple of my favorites. But today I'm going to read out a couple more. And yeah, here's one of them. Number 14 on page 14. Why is white the color of loss? Why is white the color of loss? When I weep, it's a river of chaos. No outlines, no sketches, it's murder, it's birth. There is no air, yet there is a storm. There is no air, yet there is a storm. I close my eyes to see red. My vision contains black. In my sadness, there sits nothing as pure as white. I love the imagery in this, especially the allotting of a color to a certain emotion. I think it's beautiful how you've sort of portrayed that each one of us experiences life in different colors. So what's black for you doesn't have to be black for me. What's white for another doesn't have to be white for me. And this is why I really relate to this, because I see black in different shades. People just see it as one color. So it's just the way that we look at life. And I absolutely love the emotions that you put behind this poem. It's so lovely. And one of the biggest reasons why I would say that everybody listening to this or watching this should definitely pick this book up is because each of these poems will settle down in your heart as if it's yours, as if you've been through it, as if you're a part of it. And each of us is going to have a different experience. I mean, this same poem could be different for Lavanya, this same poem could be different for Shivani. It's going to be different for the writer themselves, and it's going to be different for me as a reader. So definitely something that you should give it a try, because each of these poems are so unique and makes you feel like at home. So another one that I would like to read is 16 from 40 on page 43. I can see your happiness screaming at me through these photographs. I can see your happiness screaming at me through these photographs. I should be happy, but oh, you are so happy without me while I fight for you in dreams. I can relate to this so much, and not necessarily in a romantic way or in a relationship way or in any other conventional way as we may think of, but sometimes I can also see myself in it. I could relate to just going back to photographs. It could be of myself, it could be of my family, it could be of a person I used to love a lot once, and I can see how much of an emotion, of a true emotion it has. And it pretty much puts all my thoughts in words when I read this out. An absolutely lovely one. Samridhi, would you like to share your thoughts about this particular poem?
I actually wrote this for one person, but if you read it, I can even write this about myself. Like, you can look at my own old photographs and I can see how happy I was. And here I am today, alone and bleak and surrounded by my own darkness, trying to fight my way out of it. And then I can see how happy I am. And then even not just old photographs, even the photographs somebody takes of me right now, obviously I'll smile in them. I'll not sulk in the photographs. So if somebody looks at my photograph, they'll not know what is wrong or if I'm okay or not. And I'm very perplexed by this of trying to portray yourself to be okay in front of the whole society, even when you're not okay. So this is kind of about it. It is kind of also about that one person. But yes, it's multiple interpretations again.
Another one, this one is slightly longer. Most of the works in this book it's so beautifully bite-sized. You can just sit down and just be there and just take literally 30 seconds to read one poem, and you'll feel so good, you'll feel so refreshed, and you'll go back with having a dozen thoughts in your head. So yeah, this one is from page 136, 7. How does one react when they tell you your home isn't built deep? How does one react when they tell you your home isn't built deep? Bricks adulterated with sand, and there is a pit underneath, carved in the downward spiral of time. And those memories you so ardently worship are wisps of lie, spun so beautifully in the fabric of time, you're forever trapped inside. It just makes me want to just sit down and reread this until it sinks in myself, especially because each and every line, it makes so much sense. It hits you so hard because sometimes we're afraid to say things that we think. Sometimes these thoughts are just there in our head and we're so afraid to put them out. And I love how you put them out there so fearlessly. Each of your work is just an example of how fearless and bold you are. And I must really just appreciate that. Samridhi, would you just go ahead and read a couple of more pieces for us, please, from the book?
I would, but then I had actually written the book, so I cannot choose one favorite. That would be very wrong for my little pieces. So I would request Lavanya and Shivani to read out their favorite parts.
Oh, that is so sweet. All right, so let's hear it from Shivani first then.
Yeah, sure. This one on page 67. There is something prepossessing about him, his voice and ever-present confidence, building me up, roots growing in places unknown. Fulfilling my ravenous hunger, he feeds my soul. This just touched my heart. I even cried while reading this. I remember when I was reading the draft for the first time. And when she asked me to draw an illustration for this, I was more than excited.
I really must say that this illustration is one of my favorites, and it looks really, really deep. I feel like it goes way beyond than what it looks like. So Shivani, would you just care to elaborate a little bit about that particular illustration?
Yeah, sure. The usage of word roots over here, I just put up a lot of emphasis on that. It's a girl who's surrounded by the roots growing in places unknown. I wanted to show that in this illustration. And she's just stuck within the roots and she's unable to come out of that. I just wanted to show that feeling which I was going through while reading the poem. This poem was my father's personal favorite.
That's
He
amazing.
keeps reading it, he likes it.
And it sure must be his favorite illustration as well. It is really beautiful.
She just put something out there that was way beyond my imagination. It was something I wanted, but I could never imagine it because that is not my forte. And it's just very beautiful, and it just somehow portrays that having an external support system when you have lost yours, and finding a support system in a person, not just in a romantic way, but in any sort of a person, a friend, a confidant you meet, and you find a support system who just holds you together when you're not even able to look at yourself. So, and she has portrayed it very beautifully.
So, Shivani, tell me a little bit about the front cover illustration. How did you come up with this? Because this is the most attractive thing on the book cover. It makes you want to pick this book up. So, tell me a little bit about this beautiful front cover with this beautiful brown-skinned woman and her beautiful curls. Yeah. I absolutely love this illustration, especially because she looks so unique and so natural, unlike the kind of perfect that we see on social media. So tell me a little bit about this illustration.
So if you have seen a description of the book, it's written there that the book is about the webs we spin, and the front depicts the unbosomed body of a girl who's having a hard time accepting herself the way she is. Something which every teenager and young adult goes through nowadays. And it's because of the unnatural bodies we see on Instagram and the fake edits we use. So we just feel insecure about ourselves, and we try to portray the natural self in the book.
I can just stare at that illustration for hours, I can say, because it has so much to speak for itself. This one particular illustration, I could interpret it in so many different ways, and it'll make me feel so many different emotions. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you've done with your artwork. How long has it been since you've been illustrating or into digital art?
Actually, I started digital art last year during the second lockdown which we had. I had nothing to do. I had my boards upcoming, but it was getting distressing. I wasn't able to concentrate on my studies. So, and I was working for a few pages, and it demanded digital work for that. So I started doing digital work with my hand first, and then I got a stylus. I did it on my phone, and then my parents saw that I was improving, so they got me an iPad, and very soon I got this opportunity from Samridhi.
Amazing. That's a beautiful journey. Could you mention your Instagram handle or someplace we could find you?
Yeah, sure. The Instagram handle is the Dorky Illustrator with no spaces in between.
The Dorky Illustrator, right? DORKY. Great.
Yeah.
So audience, if you're listening to this, you can definitely go and check her profile on Instagram and check out more of her work. Connect with her there. Thank you so much for sharing that with us about the story of the front cover and sharing that message of how natural bodies actually look like, and bringing it out there for the readers and putting it out there for the entire world to see. Thank you so much. Lavanya, would you like to go ahead and read out some of your pieces, the ones that you love?
Very, very happily. I was just looking and I was just going through the pages because I bookmarked each and every page, because even though I have seen this book from like the very beginning, from the very scratch, if you will, I know these poems by heart, by now, because I have edited them, I have gone back to them, I have, just like put them in order with her. So I know all of them by heart, but it's just like whenever I read them again, it's like I'm reading them for the first time. So I think most of my favorite poems from the book are from the part She, and the most favorite of them all is the last one, because for this one, the illustration, I thought of it like way before, and I just told somebody, listen, this has to go like that. And it's on page number 25. It goes like, in her eyes, the world stood still. In her eyes, the world shook still. And it was like, the illustration for this one was right in front of my eyes, because this was so beautiful. If you think about it, and it just broke my heart like when I read it, because this has happened to me so many times, where you're just standing there and you can have whatever interpretations that you want, but the way I took it was as if, how everything happens so fast around you that you're just standing in the moment, but you don't really know what's happening. And this poem was exactly the definition of that. And after that, I think one of my favorite poems is on page number 62. It's poem number 34, and goes like, and a morning shall come when it won't be in their eyes, you will search for grace but your own. And I think that is something that we all long for. You know, that validation, the very feeling to be happy and feel as if you're enough. Because I believe that there's always a point in your life where you feel you're not enough, you're not satisfied with yourself. But I think I really dream and I hope that everybody has that day in their life where they feel that they are good enough and they are always, you know, enough for the right person. And if not, then even at least for themselves.
Thank you so much for sharing those particular pieces, Lavanya. I'm really glad you did, especially one of these and the illustration that is along with looking at it. I remember the scenes when I had a really tough time with accepting my body, with accepting my thoughts, with accepting myself, and I constantly was I felt let down. I felt like I was letting down people, and I felt like I was disappointed in myself. And I can remember looking at the mirror for hours and praying that such a day comes where I won't look for validation in somebody's eyes. And it was a difficult process, but it did happen. And that entire journey just flashed in front of my eyes when you were just reading out this piece. And I feel so at peace that somebody has written this beautiful piece out there that sums up pretty much the entire emotion that you go through during the phase of loving yourself. And it keeps coming back. I mean, loving yourself is not like something that you can do by just snapping your fingers, but it's more like a process. And I can assure you that you're going to fall in love with yourself a little extra when you read this book, because that's what this does to you. I mean, this is the impact that it has on you. Shivani, quickly, if one more thing I wanted to ask you is, there's another illustration that I keep thinking about is this one. The one with half of a heart and half of a mind. And I'm pretty sure this is one of those questions that runs through every single person at a point, to listen to the heart or listen to the mind. And is it truly the heart that you're listening to when you actually follow your gut? And also the poetry that comes along with it. I wish I could write you love poems again, but something inside me has snapped permanently. Maybe the threads connecting my heart to my brain. And one of the best poems I can say that would go along with this illustration. I cannot find another way to describe it. So if you can share a little bit about that illustration, how did you come up with it? And it's so beautiful. What are your thoughts about it?
Okay, so if you look at the illustration, it's basically the heart and the brain, and there's a nerve connecting them which has snapped. So basically, the literal meaning of the poem I have portrayed to the illustration. And it's very evident that when the time comes, we listen to the brain and not to the heart.
I think it is true. At the end of the day, we're humans, and it's not that easy to follow your heart. I mean, sometimes the question is, what is your heart thing, and actually what is the mind? Sometimes it's even difficult to differentiate or put the thoughts in your boxes. If I have a thought, is it what my brain is saying, or is it my heart? So the entire concept of that is quite nicely summed up. Lavanya, going back to you, again, another beautiful aspect of the book is the way it's structured. The phases in between, I mean, in the index, you can very clearly see that it has been put into a sort of a section that actually contributes to the entire flow of the book. And I can say that each piece connects so beautifully that it's hard to stop reading. I mean, there's no such page where I, can stop myself from turning, because each of the phases just connect her, them, him. I'm just naming some of the phases from the book: destruction, reflection, and echoes. So right from the beginning to the end, it feels like it's so in flow that you don't want to break it. You just want to go on and on, reading on and on. So tell me a little bit about this. How did you structure it, and what was the whole idea about it?
I definitely will, Kashish. But before that, I think another thing that ties the book together is this illustration on the very first page by Shivani. This one. right here. Our basic concept for it was like when Samridhi and I started, with the whole structuring of the book, and we were thinking of what illustration we could have in the book. The fun was like, where somebody, like there's some XYZ girl, we don't know who she is, but she's just messy, she's chaotic, she's unorganized, and she's just sitting on her couch at night, presumably, because that's when all of us are alive, the Gen Z. We're alive during the night time. And she's sitting, she's spilt everything here and there. And then in the end, by the time she's done with the book, she is just so organized. She is a calmer version. She's a better version of herself. And I think more than the phases, it's the illustration that has really tied everything up together if the readers can really look through. But yeah, apart from that, the phases was like, Samridhi just gave me a Google document. She's like, listen, this is the book that I am going to publish. It's in weird fragments. Do whatever we can, just so it's very, very presentable. All I had to do was go through all the, 170 plus poems that she had written and just one by one create another Google document and start placing them. So I just noticed one thing that was really common in her poems was the fact that she stuck to the very theme. And then there was a breakage, then there was another theme, and she continued on that. I don't know, I just thought that because she is writing it, and she is somebody who I know for like so many years, and I've gotten to know, like very intricate details of her through very small things. So obviously she won't just spill out her heart in like one poem, right? She has to have her own discovery journey. And then we went on about how she had, felt about other people, about her friends, about whatever relationships she had, and about family and everything else. And it was just, after that, I think it became really easy for us to sort poems out. We were like, let's name this as category 1, category 2, category 3. But we were like, what if we keep it even more vague for the audience? Just let it be open. So they were not really titled, right? So we were like, what if we don't give them anything at all? Let's keep it more vague as we can. So that's when we came up, instead of naming them as category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just went with she, him, them, reflections, destruction, and echoes. Like, she could be anybody. A random girl you see across the street, somebody in your college, some long lost friend that you've had. And then them could be your relative, could be a friend, could be a teacher, anybody that again, somebody you've come across. Ultimately, we had destruction, how everything and everyone in her life impacted her so much that she got into this deeper and deeper corner of, her own subconscious. And ultimately, she had introspection in the form of reflections, and then echoes, where she wants to get herself back from all the darkness, and she wants to, begin as another, like the butterflies come out of cocoon. She just wants to begin again, like start afresh. That's why the very last poem of the book in Echoes is her, right? And it is, I think, one of the best poems and best works by Samridhi, because it actually defines how we all would like to someday come out of the shadows and just be our true selves. So that's how we went about structuring the book and giving it, if not anything, then at least a storyline.
Thank you so much, Lavanya, for sharing that journey in so much detail. And I'm sure that gives us a little bit of an insight of how the entire book fell in place. Must say that you did a great job at understanding and coming to the conclusion that it would be best to keep the titles and the phases vague. And I think it did work well, because when I was reading, I was able to relate to every single poetry without having a sort of name tag in my mind, without having to be pushed to be thinking in a certain way. The book allowed me to think in every way. The book allowed me to be vague. It allowed me to be non-specific, and it allowed me to be free, I would say. And the entire reading process was liberating. It was not just overwhelming, not just relaxing, but it was so free that I was able to look at myself in a different light. Just like how you said, those beautiful illustrations portrayed how the author felt while writing, in the initial part of the book, and how she felt at the end of the book. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much for every reader. It's going to go for every reader, because I think a lot of my mess in the mind was sorted when I read through these poems.
And I would want Samridhi to elaborate on it, because when we were writing the poem, she was very open to criticism. She was very open to editing each and every line in every poem. So we edited very small words, very small sentences here and there. And another thing, which I don't know if a lot of readers can do it, because even I could not just notice it in one go, and I had to reread the poems to go through it. There are no punctuations in the book whatsoever. There are a lot of imperfections in the book. And I would just want Samriddhi to elaborate on it, because I think the way she explained it to me was so beautiful, and it was like so raw that it actually felt that I have written the book. That's why I feel like every reader will feel like it's their book. It's not her book. She's just done the part of writing it. It's their book to own up to.
Yeah, first of all, I hate commas. So I wanted to do away with punctuations. And then I thought that I'm writing these at night. Most of the 99% of the poems I had written at night. And when you're thinking at night, you do not think in breaks. You do not think in perfect English. You are either angry, you are sad, you are introspective, whatever the emotion you are going through, you don't stop. When at night, when everything else is quiet and died down in your house or any place you are in, the loudest place to be is inside your head. And it is not a slow place. You cannot stop. It's a highway. And you just have to go on and on and on. And if you try to stop yourself in the middle, you're going to die. Because you have to get to the bottom of the spiral. You have to get out of the spiral wherever you want to go. You cannot stop. Either way, you cannot stop. So be it a stop for a drink, any kind of energy drink, nothing, not even punctuation, not full stops, no questions, nothing. It's just emotions. It's like you see in the movie Interstellar, when they're going down the black hole, the whole spaceship just whirls down and down and down and down, and there's no stopping in between. So it's just like that. If you try to stop your emotions anyhow, any kind of stoppage, it wouldn't be successful at all. So that was the reason for not including any kind of punctuations, and to keep the whole thing untitled, to make it vague, to make it relatable, to make it open, and to make it general.
You definitely achieved what you wanted to achieve with the entire concept of the book, be it keeping it vague or not adding any punctuations or keeping it raw. And it's a really beautiful perspective that you shared. I have not really thought in that direction, that sometimes you just need to give in to your thoughts. You just need to let them happen, because they're happening for a reason. Your thoughts are happening for a reason. You're feeling emotions for a reason, and they're all valid, and you should let yourself experience it. Like I would like to quote again from one of my favorite books, The Fault in Our Stars, pain demands to be felt, and pretty much every other emotion demands to be felt. So I think your book is an example of allowing yourself to feel your thoughts, to feel the pain, to feel the happiness, to consider everything that is happening in your body, your mind, and your soul, to consider everything and to just embrace it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you, Lavanya, for probing that little conversation here. So, I mean, pretty much we've discussed the entire journey of the book, and I must say thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm really, really glad that you three came together and put together this beautiful masterpiece. I'm really happy to have it on my bookshelf. Audience, if you're listening, you can check out more such poems in the book. They're really lovely. It's a great read on a nice evening with a cup of coffee. If you're a chai person, it'll go even better with chai and pakoras, and you can enjoy this book because it is that kind of a book that you'd enjoy when you are maybe in a troubled mood, or maybe if you're sad or sulking, or if you're just bored, or if you're looking for some inspiration. This is your go-to book. This book is your comfort book. And I mentioned to Samridhi even in the previous live session that I find these to be my comfort poems. And I literally want to call them comfort poems because that is what they make me feel every time I go back and reread. So go ahead, go to the Amazon bookstore, check it out on the Inkfeathers bookstore as well. You can get the copy today and take a look at by yourself, whether you like it or not, because this is definitely an incredible addition to your bookshelf and you will not regret it. So Samridhi, any parting words, anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Definitely. I think that these 40 minutes are not enough to actually appreciate the amount of efforts Lavanya and Shivani have put into the book. And I am pretty sure Lavanya downplayed her role, and she was very humble while describing her role in the book, because Kashish, the whole book is hers, because they were just very random pieces and she brought the whole story in the book, and hats off to her. And Shivani for bringing life. Lavanya brought coherency and then Shivani brought life, and thank you guys so much, because I wouldn't have imagined it otherwise, and it would never have been complete otherwise. So thank you so much. And
Thank
obviously the readers for appreciating it and for finding it worth enough your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lavanya, Samridhi, Shivani, for joining us today. Until next time, we'll be back with another interview, another author, and another book for you to get on your bookshelf. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye, everybody.